quick live tonight. I have some extra time. So I wanted to get on and talk about the 4-day work week just on the fly. Give my thoughts on that. Yeah, so the 4-day work week. This is a very interesting topic, and I'm going to give my thoughts on this and also talk about what I think about it. Because one of the things, especially as an entrepreneur, that I focus on is time, right? How much time am I putting in? So let's get into it. So plain and simple, what I think about the 4-day work week is I honestly think that it's great. I think a 4-day work week would benefit more people and actually increase productivity more than it would not benefit people and decrease productivity. And here's why, okay? Here's why I think this. Just fundamentally, I don't think that when you work more, you're necessarily more productive. And what I mean by that is just look at technology, right? Someone that was traveling 100 years ago, or let's say 150 years ago, no vehicles. Someone that was traveling, like if we use the unit of traveling, someone that was traveling for 72 hours, they put in a lot of work, right? They may have been walking, they may have been riding on a horse. The point is, for that 72 hours, they were working, right? They were traveling, right? Now someone that's traveling 72 hours today in a vehicle, they can get a lot more ground underneath their feet or underneath their wheels, right? So traveling for 72 hours today is different than traveling 72 hours 150 years ago, right? What took you 3 weeks to a month 150 years ago, that may take you a day today or even less, right? Depending on the time and the weather and all that stuff and the condition of the people. Like you can drive 80 miles per hour on some highways, right? You can drive 80 miles per hour. That means in 5 hours, no stops. If you're driving 80 miles per hour, you can drive 400 miles, right? That trip alone would have taken weeks, if not months, 150 years ago. So the point that I'm making is just because you do something for longer does not mean that you got more done or that you were productive. The same studies have even shown when it comes to college and the way that students study. Studies say, hey, look, after a certain amount of time of studying, you're not even really retaining the information, right? You're just looking at words now and pictures. You're not actually retaining that information. And so it might be better for you to get 2 or 3 solid hours of focused studying in than to try to get 12 hours where maybe 9 of those hours you're not really retaining information. And I tie all that back into the 4-day work week because I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs. I've seen like, for instance, Patrick Bet David talking about how he thinks, and this is me paraphrasing from what I got, the 4-day work week is essentially for lazy people. That lazy people want a 4-day work week. And here's why I disagree that the 4-day work week is about a person being lazy, right? My perspective is this. Especially when it comes to jobs. Now, I'm not going to talk about entrepreneurship. I'm not going to talk about entrepreneurs. You do what you do. But when it comes to jobs, right? If you're working at a job, I think it's very restrictive in many jobs for a job to tell you what time you need to come in, when you need to get your work done, all of these things. There's more updated research. There's a book by Daniel Pink who he dives into psychology, and in this book, I believe it's called, I think it's called Drive. right? And in this book, he talks about what's called it's called ROW. I think it's a results uh, only work environment, I believe. Results only work environment, I believe. But essentially, this model of being an employee is centered around the results you get, meaning you don't have a specific time you have to come to work. You don't have to be there for a certain amount of days. You don't have to have somebody micromanaging you and checking in on you all the time. You pretty much, you get your project, there are deadlines, and however you decide to get that work done, as long as you're producing results, as long as you're getting the work done, nobody cares, right? And I think that that's the direction we're moving in, to where in 10, 20, 30 years, it's going to be so foreign to us that you have to show up at a certain time and at a certain place and do all of these other things and work 8 hours, even though you can actually get what you need to get done for that day done in 2-3 hours if you're really focused, right? See, I think people assume that because you were at work for 8 hours that you were actually working for 8 hours. Let's be real. Most people are not actually working during that time. There's a bunch of filler things that go in, and what research has shown us over time is that 80% of your results are produced by 20% of the things that you actually do. 80% of the output you get is a result of 20% of the work. So focusing on that 20% of the work actually produces the best results. Even in sales, right? They say focus on money generating activities. Even though we have CRMs, even though we have to update systems, even though we have all of these administrative tasks, people would much rather you focus on, especially sales managers, or if you're a business owner, right? You would much rather focus on the money generating activities, aka the most productive things. So, perfect example, if you're in sales, right? Just because you worked 8 hours does not mean you were productive. In other words, if you weren't on the phone, if you weren't on social media, if you weren't doing money generating activities, you may not have been as productive as somebody that came in and made calls for an hour, somebody that was DMing people for an hour on social media, somebody that was creating content and posting it for an hour. Even though you were at the office for 8 hours, maybe you were organizing something or doing something else. If you weren't doing specific activities, then you may not have been productive. And so the point that I'm making with this whole 4-day work week is this, okay? As we move into the era of ChatGPT, AI making things very streamlined, all of these different things, you can do things much, much, much faster, okay? People are going to look to technology as a tool, right? People are going to look to technology as a tool. And much like, before we had houses and things like that, and we were living outside or in huts and things like that, and we didn't have AC and all these other things, right? You may have been considered lazy for not going and starting your own fire. You may have been considered lazy for not building your own house and somebody else building your house. You may have been considered lazy for not growing your own food and instead going and buying your food from somebody else. All of those things may have been viewed as you being lazy because you weren't putting in as much work. But as technology advances, there's no need for us. Like, if here's the thing, if we needed 8 hours to get something done back then, why would we still need that same 8 hours to get the same thing done now with technology, right? So that's the thing. I think as we look towards the future, people are going to be saying, okay, I got why we did that in the past, right? I got why, it took 4 or 5 hours to do a load of clothes back then, because we didn't have washers and dryers. You had to go by the river and scrub and do all this other stuff and then hang it up, and right? But now we have washers and dryers. So maybe it shouldn't take 4 or 5 hours. But that doesn't mean that I have to sit around and do all this other stuff for 4 or 5 hours, right? So I think that's where the 4-day work week is going. I think technology has really changed the way that many people look at work. Many jobs are moving to a remote type of setting. And with that being said, I think managers have no interest, supervisors have no interest in babysitting people. As long as you're getting your work done, completed, and you are being productive, I don't think people care what you're doing in the meantime. Even business owners, you would be amazed at how stressful it is for a business owner or a manager to constantly be worrying about what are you doing. It takes so much stress off of their plate to just say, hey, look, the norms have changed. As long as you get your work done, I don't want to babysit. I trust you. You're an adult. That's why I hired you. I didn't trust you. I didn't hire you to not trust you and to be on your back all the time. I hired you to do your job. I have a good enough vetting process that we did that, and I trust that you're going to do what you're doing. Okay? Maybe I'm an optimist, maybe not. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that a 4-day work week is a good thing. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you got any value from this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, comment, all that great stuff, and I will see you on the next video.